Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or it's 2 a.m. Go to bed already. This is Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon, and I apologize once again for not being around. But I'm back. We're going to try and work out some sort of schedule where I know more about when I'm going to be and when I'm not. And we're going to get this back on a weekly show. I swear to you that. Especially since this is when all the tech's happening. So anyway, today there was a huge Apple announcement. Unfortunately, I was not able to watch the keynote live. I instead had to do this crazy thing called work, or another job. But honestly, it was just kind of a wah, wah. Especially for what I'm seeing. I mean, I can view the keynote now. I really don't want to spend the 2 hours to do it because I don't want to see them tooting their own horn for 2 hours. But the front page pretty much says everything I need to know. There is now an iPad Pro in 2 sizes. Okay. I don't know why we needed that, but thank God we have that now. We have the iPhone SE. What a naming scheme. What does the SE even stand for? Super Essentials? I don't know. But that's a smaller iPhone. We'll get into that in a bit. And then the Apple Watch is back on the front page. It doesn't say a new Apple Watch, but I do see unique bands. So all I have to assume is that there's new bands. So in any case, I kind of just quickly grabbed the tabs. I haven't looked through them much in detail. So we're going to go through this. So, let's say you are just like me, you didn't watch the keynote. What happened? Well, let's move over to the Apple Watch page. So, right off the bat, it's just generic, you at a glance, never miss what matters, stay motivated, stay healthy, choose yours, then make even more you. We'll save that for in a minute. Watch bands that I don't get, ads. You know what's kind of, you notice a trend here? The word new is nowhere here. So for those who were predicting new Apple Watch, first off, I was one of them. I honestly did think they were going to replace the Apple Watch already because it was just kind of a But so far all they did, it looks like has just released some new watch bands, which it definitely looks like they did. Oh god, what is that? Is that like yarn? Is that like a felt? Is that a hand-woven watch band? Does that cost $10 million? Oh. In any case, we'll save that buy page for later too, because I know these watch bands are going to be expensive as crap. So, let's look at this gallery. So, we have, looks like it has all the various watch heads in this gallery. So let's make one real quick. You know what I notice is missing? The edition isn't here. So I'll have no idea what a nice edition watch would look on my wrist. Not that it matters, because I like my Samsung watch. For varying degrees of the word like. Anyway. Let's see here. I have fat wrists, and I like gold. Let's pick the gold one. Alright, so we have Midnight Blue Sport. We have Beige. You can call it whatever you want. That's beige. It looks terrible. We have hot pink. Or light pink. We have traffic cone. We have a nice bright shade of red. But it says product red, so it instantly, instead of just being a nice bright color, it instantly means that it's for a good cause. Which kind of just makes me feel kind of about it. I don't know why. Got yellow, white sport, stone. Actually, I kind of like that. I think I'd like that better on the regular aluminum. We've seen that one. We've seen that one. I think that one's new. The black Milanese loop. I love that watch band, but the watch band itself is more than the watch. But we'll get more into that in a minute. Leather band, more blue leather bands. Now the gallery's not working. This white leather, this white leather does not look like a style that's in right now. This looks like something that my grandma would wear. I'm not even kidding. That does not look current. It just, you have this modern looking square watch with nice rounded corners and this bubbled up front. And then you just clash it with this white leather. And we got classic buckle, we got more classic buckles, we got classic buckle in all sorts of colors. Black, blue, which seems so unnatural it's not even funny. This, what'd they call this one? They call it Storm Gray. It looks just regular gray. We have Midnight Blue, which is basically blue jeans. Then we have Cyan, which they call Blue Jay Classic. We have Marigold, which looks pretty much exactly like you'd expect. It looks marigold. We have White Classic, which looks like light gray. We have Red Classic, which is not associated with a good cause. I personally don't care. Saddle Brown, which looks exactly that. It looks saddle brown. Except that one, it looks like it's a different material. I'm not sure on that one. Then we have Woven. If you want a material that clashes badly, it's these woven bands. These woven ones. They look like something that a friend of mine made. They look like hand woven with like clashing Afghan colors. Like you've probably every family has at least one person who's gotten into weaving, knitting, and has made just a giant, big blanket out of blue yarn, yellow yarn, all that sort of stuff. Imagine that, but in a watch band. And it's just like, I love that sort of blanket for like on the couch or just something bundling up while watching The Walking Dead or something. Not on a watch band. I'm sorry. That just, ugh. Bad end. And then we're back to the sport bands. So it looks like they pretty much just added some new colors in these woven bands, which were a bad idea. So let's look at the price. Alright, Watch Edition is still around. Good to know that. So first I'm going to look at the pricing for the Watch Sport. Let's see if anything's changed. Actually, some stuff has changed. It starts at $300. So all of you who went and bought an Apple Watch for $500 out of the gate, this is me laughing at you. I told everyone, do not under any circumstances get an Apple Watch on day one. And there were so many Apple heads on day one, they couldn't help themselves. Oh, it's down to $300. It dropped by almost 50%. That's probably happened for a while, and I've probably reported that before. But I want to say it dropped down to $350. Now it's dropped another $50. This thing just keeps getting cheaper and cheaper. Now it's actually competitive with all the other smartwatches out there. I think I actually paid more for my Samsung. No, I still paid less. Never mind. I had to think about it for a minute, though. Alright, but it looks like all of them are pretty much the same. It's $300 for the starting one, and then $350 for the bigger one. But now with the woven bands... Oh, the woven bands are the same price. So it's nothing extra to get these woven bands. Which is fine. Okay, now I don't have a problem with it. If they were going to charge more for those ugly woven bands, I'd just be like, ugh, why? So, moving on. It looks like the price of the stainless steel ones actually went up. By the looks of it now, it looks like they do not come with the sports bands like they used to, but they start now at $650 for the stainless steel one. Now, granted, that stainless steel one has sapphire glass. I'm making air quotes around the word sapphire because it's synthetic sapphire, and I don't know why I air quoted in synthetic sapphire, because it is synthetic sapphire. And I'm only air quoting that because it's just kind of, okay, it's a little harder. You can still shatter it, though. And honestly, it's kind of one of those things where, you know what? If you are worried about being in an environment where you might smash your $300 to $500 watch, you should probably do what you did before with a $300 to $500 watch. You take it off when you're about to do something rough. I do it all the time. They tell me, hey, go work under this machine. I take the watch off and set it over by my stuff. Every time, because I'm afraid I'm going to scratch the glass in here. On this one, I only have Gorilla Glass. I don't have the sapphire. And even then, with the sapphire, I would still do that. But anyway, I'm rambling. On top of that, the stainless steel is just such a scratch magnet. Hey, I'm getting distracted. They start $650. If you want to go for any of the ones with the modern buckles, you're now upping it up by $100. Starts at $750, and it's still just. I look at these. The only model you'd ever want, which is the stainless steel one, because that's the one that looks better than the aluminum, and it's still just why. Okay, I take that back. They start at $550, so the price stayed exactly the same. The sport, well, the price went down a little bit, but the sport one went down a lot. And really, when push comes to shove, your best plan if you want an Apple Watch, go get the sport one, go buy a third-party band, because there are those now, and be happy forever. In fact, heck, go get the aluminum one with the gold paint on it, and fool your friends. Yeah, you might not have that nice chromey chrome look, but you're going to be so much happier. You can spend that extra $300 on just about anything. Now, if you clearly have way too much money, and you want to get one of these designer, I have no idea what you're smoking to want this watch band. These ones that are so large, they have to loop around your, that have to loop around your wrist twice in order to fit it. That starts, the ones that double loop, at $1,250. For a watch that is going to be outdated in 6 months. And really, by smartwatch standards, they are already outdated! Now, if you want this designer... Now, if you want to go with a Fauve Bernina leather band, these other ones that wrapped around were the Capucine. Capucine? I don't know. I really don't care. But they're called Double Tour. Oh no, that's the color! Is this Capucine. Which is basically just a fancy word for saying it's red. It's just red. Okay? Just stop. Just pull your head out of your butt. It's red. The designer world is weird. Okay, these double tour bands, those were the ones I was talking about before. These ones that are called single tours. Those start at $1,100 for a normal watch band. Now, if for whatever retarded reason you want the cuff watch band, that starts at $1,500. I'd like to remind you again, this is for a watch that is going to be outdated in 6 months. Max. They're halfway through their life cycle now. There's going to be a second one coming out. It's going to have a new processor. It's going to be faster. It's going to have better battery life. It's going to be more accurate in everything it does. And it is most likely, just like every other smartwatch that's pretty much being made now, going to be able to stand alone. Even the watch I have currently, this one from Samsung, which is their bottom of the line right now, can function on its own without the phone. But enough about me rambling. Let's move on, shall we? The iPhone SE. So now we have 3 modern iPhones. At the top, we have the iPhone 6s Plus. At the middle ground, we have the iPhone 6s. And then we have the iPhone SE. The iPhone SE looks exactly like the iPhone 5. I'm not generalizing here. I mean that seriously. It looks exactly the same. The only difference is the guts inside. And that there is a rose gold option. So you too can have a pink phone. I'd criticize that more, but I have a pink light next to me, and mainly that's just to be decoration, and to say that, hey, you know what, Easter's coming up, so that is the closest I can get. And I think on camera it doesn't even look pink. But it does next to me, so moving on. I'm distracted. This is a 4-inch Retina display phone. It has an A9 chip in it, so it has the highest. It's got a 12-megapixel camera. Design, they have a paragraph here talking about its design. I don't care, because it's exactly the same as the iPhone 5. The most powerful 4-inch phone ever. You want to know why it's the most powerful 4-inch phone ever? Because nobody makes a 4-inch phone! Nobody does it! And then they show benchmarks comparing it to other iPhones. I so don't care. I don't care how it compares to the other iPhones, because really, in the grand scheme of things, the iPhone does not suffer from a performance problem. It suffers from a battery problem. So until you show me some specs about the battery life, I'm not going to care about any numbers you throw at me. Going down, yeah. Oh, actually, let's take a look at this. Faster LTE and Wi-Fi. Alright, so it does have a... I think that... Yeah, it has an 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, no surprise there. They are boasting, though, that it can get up to 433 megabits per second over Wi-Fi, which, you know, that's pretty much the... That's what you expect from 802.11 AC at max. You will then instantly be bogged down by your cruddy 15 down and 1 up internet connection that Time Warner sticks you with, because that's just how they operate, and you're just wanting to shake people over and over again. The thing I'm a little skeptical of, it says up to 150 megabits per second over LTE. Now, here's the thing about that number. That is what the phone is capable of. The network has to be able to support that. In order for the network to be able to support that, it has to be able to broadcast at that speed. Nothing here in the US broadcasts at that speed. We wish it did. We wish we got land internet at that speed. But, you know, it's capable of that, but more than likely by the time anything close to this is pushed out over LTE, it's going to move on to whatever supersedes LTE, which would end up being 5G. And I forgot what... who was it? It was either Verizon or Sprint was working on the new broadcasting technology for 5G. In any case, moving on down the page, hardware and software made for each other, blah, 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 I don't care. Siri still exists, good to know. The App Store still exists, of course. Switching the iPhone has never been easier. Okay. I'm actually curious, I'm actually very curious as to that, but I'm not curious enough to go migrate out of my current phone into an iPhone. And then we have a whole bunch of accessories, which... Oh, the accessories. Which may or may not include that case. So anyway, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to look at the pricing of the various models, because that's where it's going to get very interesting. I'll be right back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. Now here's something interesting I just found. Going over the website menu, there's something missing. If you're watching the video version, I implore you, take a look at the top menu. You have Mac, iPad, iPhone, Watch, TV, Music, Support. There's no iPods. The iPod menu is gone. Now, you might be thinking, it's obviously under the Music. It is not. The Music tab just leads to Apple Music. And all the things that it goes to. So I actually had to dig through the Apple site. You can still buy the iPods, but the fact that it's missing completely off the front page, it's a damn shame to see the iPod go. It really is. But let's get to that a little bit more in a moment. For now, let's look at the pricing for the iPhone, the entire iPhone lineup. Right now at the lowest end, at least from Apple, your carrier might have different. From Apple, the bottom tier is the iPhone SE. You can get that in silver, gold, space gray, or rose gold. So if you're like me and you want something that's black, like your soul, you are stuck with space gray. Which honestly looks darker than it normally is. And basically, the phone price is either $400 for a 16 gig model or $500 for 64 gig. Those are your only two options. And those prices, if I'm not mistaken, does not change based on carrier. But for the lulz, let's quickly go through. AT&T, it's still that. Sprint, still that. T-Mobile, still that. Verizon, still that. And SIM-free, of course, it's still that. So the cost of the phone stays the same across the board. The financing options stay different if you're not buying it outright. So, $400 for 16, $500 for the larger capacity. Then you can add AppleCare. That is the base entry into the iPhone world, which honestly, not terrible, but compared to like $200 for a Moto E, yeah, it's just not there. But it actually is a very good phone for $400. It's nice to finally see iPhone actually offer a relatively cheap option. Though, let's say you were going to do something like one thing I hear quite often is retailers going to like using iPod touches, using scanners, and using that as mobile point of sale options. Well, you're still not quite to that point. With the iPod Touch, which I had to dig to find, by the way, you're still starting at $200. And you're actually getting quite a bit for that 200. So, and for those of you who are curious, 200 for the 16, 250 for the 32, 300 for the 64, and 400 for the 128. So if you're looking for a music player, definitely hunt down a 128 gigabyte iPod Touch. Because, just going to the iPhone SE for that, you're looking at $200. Or probably your best bet, go on eBay. It's for the best. So anyway, iPhone SE starts at $400. Next option up is the iPhone 6, last year's model. You have two models. You have a lot of models. You have the 4.7-inch one, pretty much the standard size for phones nowadays. That starts at $550. Select that. You can only get that in silver or space gray. I'll pick silver for this one for the lulz. Actually, let me pick space gray. See if the front changes to black. It does. Okay. And that one you also can only get in 16 or 64. 16 is $550. 64 is $650. So again, $100 more to quadruple the to quadruple the capacity. If you go to the 6 Plus, or as I call it, to the Pro phone size, you're talking $650 for the 16 gig version, or $750 for the 64 gig model. So that's really steep. Then you move on to the current top-end phone, and that is the iPhone 6s. Starting with the 4.7-inch model, that comes in 4 colors: silver, gold, space gray, or pink. I'll go with pink, sure, why not? That comes in 3 capacities: 16, 64, and 128. 16 for the 4.7-inch model is $650. 64 is $750, and 128 is $850. Now, if I were to back up and go with the Pro phone, the 5.5-inch screen, I'll go with space gray this time. That is $750 for the 16 gig, $850 for the 64 gig, or a staggering $950 for the 128 gig model. Now, what's the big difference between all of them? The 6S has the newest A9 chip in it. The 6 only has the A8 chip in it, so you're a model behind. The SE, oddly enough, has the A9 chip in it. So the A9 has the same computing power of the 6S. Does that matter? Not really. Honestly, here's the thing. If you were to go out, if you were forced, like, I'm going to get into this in the segment after this, but I got a friend who is just subcontracted out to Apple, and he's pretty much afraid he's going to have to go get all Apple stuff. For him, if he was going to have to go get an iPhone, I would pretty much tell him, go get the SE one. Because all of his other normal operations, he's just going to do with his regular phone anyway. The smaller screen might be a bit of a hassle, but you got more computing power in there, and it's probably going to be better on the field anyway. I'd go with that over the 6. The 6 is just a lot more expensive, and if you're just going to be using it as, like, a memo-taking device, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say right now, just for the fact that really, for all I say that for the differences in the computing power I'm talking about, they're all pretty much comparable, unless you're using some very unique iOS application that is CPU hard on it. If you're an average user, don't even worry about the CPU capacity. Don't even worry about the power behind it. Don't worry about the graphics performance. Don't worry about any of that. Because more than likely, just having too many applications running in the background is going to kill your phone more than not having enough CPU power. Which brings me to the iPads. So, I officially have no idea what Apple is thinking. So one thing that was weird when the iPad Pro was announced was that the iPad Pro came out, so now there was a new top-tier iPad that was enormous. And then the iPad Mini got bumped up to the iPad 2, or the iPad Air 2. So now it was at level with that. And then everyone was just like, oh, ignore the iPad Air then, that hasn't gotten refreshed. Well, now it got refreshed, and then got its name changed to the iPad Pro. So that's right. There are two iPad Pros. And the differences between the two are just kind of... I don't know. Who asked for this? I mean, I guess I'd use the 10-inch iPad Pro more than I would the 13-inch. The 13-inch was huge. But this new iPad Pro, the smaller one, does have the 4-speaker system. It's very nice, but none of them are facing the front, so, you know, rip. It's got the A9X, so it has the same super powerful desktop-grade processor that the iPad Pro has. I used a lot of air quotes around that one, if you couldn't see. And it just boils down to... who cares? Alright, A9X, it had with up to 1.8 times the CPU performance of the iPad Air 2. Who was maxing out their CPU on their iPad Air 2? Who are these people that are using professional-grade applications on an iPad? And really, it really does get me that they keep saying desktop-grade performance on products like this. Because they're not. It simply isn't. I'm willing to bet if you run any sort of standardized benchmark between your iPad and my desktop down here, my desktop is going to kick your iPad's butt every single frickin' time. So don't tell me that your iPad has desktop-grade processing power unless you're willing to back it up. Not that it really matters in the end. I mean, there are some impressive advances here. Like they can get a low-tier version of AutoCAD working, which, you know, props to you. So there are some advantages. But pretty much everything the iPad Pro could do, this can do. There is a keyboard case. There's a keyboard case for this smaller one too, which... I mean, I guess it's better because it is smaller and actually more portable, so I can justify wanting a keyboard case for this. Because the thing is that with the 13-inch iPad Pro, with how big it was, and how just kind of shoehorned in the keyboard was, with that keyboard case, it was just like, why am I not carrying a laptop? But in any case, let's actually just look down the line. So, on the iPad Pros, it is the same capacity pretty much across the board, with a few exceptions. The 13-inch one has a 32 gig model, 128 gig model, and a 256 gig model in the Wi-Fi only. If you want Wi-Fi and cellular, you have to get 128 gigs or 256 gigs. I don't know why you would want 256 gigs on an iPad, but then again, I've also seen a few people who have actually tried to put, God, like 50 DVDs worth of movies on their iPad, so I guess props to you guys, for reasons. The 10-inch iPad Pro is same capacity as in the Wi-Fi, but it does also offer a 32 gig model on the Wi-Fi and cellular. The pricing for the iPad Pros on the 13-inch model is still the same. Don't even look at them. you'll just cry. Well, actually, it showed me both of them, so I'll just go over them anyway. On the 13-inch model, it starts at $800, and then you stop listening to me after that. They start at $800 and go all the way up to $1,229. If you are seriously considering getting an iPad for $1,229, look into a laptop. Just do it. Just go. Go look for a laptop. I guarantee you, for that amount of money, you can find a good laptop. You can even find a laptop that weighs as much as this iPad. And is as portable as this iPad. There is no reason to get this iPad for that amount of money. Ever. There's no reason to get a tablet. Ever for that kind of money. Not a Surface, not anything. As much as I like the Surface, I would not pay $1,229 for that. Alright. Okay, anyway. Looking at the 10-inch models. Those start at $599. They start at $600. So, basically the pricing went up $100 for what's being added. So you have to ask yourself, first off, if you're a professional and you want to go and run CAD, because basically you need the higher-end processor in order to run CAD, you first need to ask yourself, do I really want to run CAD on a tablet? More than likely, the answer is no. I cannot imagine a scenario where an engineer would say, you know what? I want to run CAD on a tablet. The only people who would do that is people like me. Idiots who have no idea what they're doing with CAD and just say like, wow, this program kicks my desktop's butt. I wonder what it would do to my laptop. That's the only kind of person who would try CAD on a tablet. Now, I could be incredibly mistaken. Maybe there's some engineer out there that would love to bring their CAD design out to the field and then show them off as the construction's going. Maybe that exists. But anyway, it starts at $600, goes all the way up to $1,030. And the steps look kind of odd, to be quite honest, on the inside, because to go from 32 to 128, it goes up to $750. And then to double it again, it goes up to $900. So it's $150 steps the whole way up. I'm going to quickly check to see, did the iPad Air 2 do that? I'm willing to bet not. The iPad Air did not do that. It went from $400 to $500 to go from 16 to 64. So, here's where I'm going to stand on this. If, for whatever reason, you think that having an iPad with a keyboard case and an official Apple keyboard case is going to be beneficial, if you need to have the silly stylus that I'm willing to bet is going to fall apart the first day that you're charging it and you just bend it the wrong way, because that stylus design is just terrible. I'm sorry, it is. If you need to have the quad speakers, by all means, go with the 10-inch iPad Pro and just get the cheapest one. Because the $150 jump every time to increase the storage is insane. And the only if you just like, well, 32 gigs is definitely not enough, that you need to store more on it for whatever reason, then go for the 128 gig. Do not go for the 256. That's stupid. Don't be stupid. Now, one other thing I actually did look at was the weight. The weight on this new iPad Pro is exactly the same as the iPad Air, which is actually really good. Staying under that 1 pound mark is important, and they're just under it. The 13-inch iPad Air, you know, that's still at 1.57 pounds, and you can tell it is a beast, and you'd be much better off with just a laptop. If you're curious about the screen resolution, on the 13-inch iPad Pro, pixels per inch is 264. On the 10-inch, pixels per inch, 264. Air 2, 264. On the 2 minis, it's 326. All of these pixels per inch is well above what you're going to notice. Oddly enough, though, the new iPad Pro does feature 2 new gimmick words for their displays, called wide color display and true tone display. What does that mean? I don't know. Does it matter? Probably not. Should you care? No. No, you shouldn't. They're good screens, and in the end, if you really cared about color accuracy, you wouldn't be going with an iPad in the first place, because iPads are still using LCD. If you cared a lot about color accuracy, you'd be going with one of the Android or Windows tablets that use OLED. That's just the truth. Processors, pretty much the same across the board. A9X and A9X in the 2 Pros, A8X in the iPad Air 2, A8, just a regular A8 in the iPad Mini, in the iPad Mini 4, and then an A7 in the iPad Mini 2. They throw some numbers down here, but none of them matter because they're all just they just say like CPU 2.4 faster. What does faster mean? Faster than what? It means nothing. And oddly enough, it even says that the one in the 13-inch is 2.5 times faster, and the one in the 9.7 one is 2.4 times faster. So whatever, even though they say they put the same chip in both of them, they're clearly not, because otherwise the numbers would be the same. Oh yeah, there's a higher end camera in the iPad, in the 10-inch iPad Pro. You should never look at what the camera is on that, because why would you do that? Don't take... Here. Never, ever take pictures with your tablet. If you are taking pictures with your tablet, you are using the front-facing camera for video conferencing. Now, that being said, the front-facing camera is actually a lot better in the 9.7 inch. That's a 5 megapixel camera in there. So, that's kind of nice. Audio, 4 speakers in both the Pros, 2 speakers in all the rest. Touch ID is in everything but the iPad Mini 4. Apple Pay is compatible in all the iPads except for the iPad Mini 2. I don't know why you'd want to pay with your iPad, but there you go. Siri's in all of them. And blah, 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 blah. The rest of them pretty much doesn't matter. Oh, and the new 9.7-inch iPad Nano does have embedded Apple SIM. So down the road, when we eliminate SIM cards and watch a whole bunch of diehards kind of riot, you know, the 9.7-inch iPad Pro will be ready for that. All right, so that's enough of that. Oh, and the new 10-inch iPad Pro does have the smart connector, which will come in effect down the road. All right, so I'm going to be right back. When I come back, I want to talk about what to do if you have to have a Mac. Be right back. Alright, welcome back. Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. Let's wrap this up. So, one thing I was asked, and this was by a friend of mine, and for the sake of this, I'm going to refer to him as Fred. Fred got contracted out to Apple, and he's going to be moving out there. I wish him the best of luck. But but he's afraid that he's going to have to go and get some Macs. And he's thinking he's going to have to end up with a MacBook of some kind and something that runs iOS. Most likely a phone. So, that being said, he went to me for advice. And at the time I said I had to do some research because it's been a while. Well, let's do some research. First off, he wanted to make sure that the Mac he got had enough power. If there's anything you learned from the last episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech, you are much better off just getting another frickin' computer and doing your gaming on that, rather than boot camping another Mac. I mean, let's just quickly run through the math. First off, current Macs, there's nothing new. We're a generation behind. Yeah, new Macs are due any day. They could come out as soon. They could come out in. I thought there might have been some Mac announcement today. There wasn't, so probably another month. Maybe they'll wait till WWDC. That seems more likely now, and there most likely will be a redesign of some kind. But basically, you've got your MacBook Air, your MacBook Pro, iMac, and Mac Mini. Mac Pros and the MacBook, you should not touch with a 10-foot pole ever. If you ever touch a Mac Pro or a MacBook, you are wrong. You are completely and utterly wrong. The MacBook is way too expensive for what it is, and the Mac Pro is just unnecessary. And also way too expensive. The only time you're going to go for a Mac Pro is if you're doing video rendering. If you're doing video rendering, you want high-end CPU, and if you want high-end CPU, you should go with the previous generation Mac Pro, just for the fact that the previous generation had 12 cores. And more threads. Well, you could get a 12-core Mac Pro and then watch them be underclocked, and then watch your cooling fan have trouble cooling that down because the cooling design is kind of inefficient for what a professional computer needs, and just why, Apple? Why? You wanted to prove you can make something unique. Congratulations, you did. Now what? You want to make something that works? Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So anyway, here's the best way to go. First off, check out the refurbished Apple Store. This will look at stuff that's about 1 to 2 generations behind. And honestly, the difference between Sandy Bridge, which was the generation that came out in 2011, and now, which is Skylake, the performance increase across that is about 20%. That's it. Across 4 or 5 years-ish. 4 or 5 years, that's all we've accomplished, was 20% increase. A lot of the increase was actually in the graphics side, and honestly, for professional applications, you don't care. Because most professional applications, unless you're doing something very unique, will run on a toaster. In fact, actually, for the purposes of just quick bookkeeping, I would first look at the 11-inch MacBook Airs. And I'd recommend, first, of course, head into an Apple Store or Best Buy and actually physically look at the 11-inch MacBook Air. Look at that screen and see it, and just ask yourself, can I tolerate this screen size? If you say no, move on to the next size up. If you can, definitely look at it. Because there is actually quite a bit of horsepower packed in there with Core i5s and i7s. Granted, they're dual cores, but still, it's going to be better than the Core M you're going to get in a MacBook. God, Apple, what were you thinking? Ugh. I'm sorry, what? Anyway. So anyway, you can see right here, they start at like $760, which is a little high, but that's for that was from last generations. That was the 2015 model. And that still would do just about anything you'd want it to. Now, in his case, he asked me, Fred asked me, would it be better to get a MacBook Pro with a high-end card and then boot camp Windows and then use that for my Windows applications and for gaming? Well, in order to get that, at the least, you would be looking at this guy right here at $2,000, and that would get you a 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro, quad-core Intel Core i7, very nice, 500 whole gigs of flash storage, and an NVIDIA GT 750. You can do that, or split it. For $2,000, you can easily get a MacBook Air, and you can even get a 13-inch for $1,000. Easy, no problem. You can get that new for $1,000. Then the other $1,000, head over to Dell or HP or Lenovo, pick one, and just get the lowest end gaming laptop they got. Nice and thin, about as thin as these guys, and they've got a GTX 760 in it. You're now ahead on horsepower, graphic power, and just about everything. You have two laptops, so you have a backup. That's the unfortunate thing nowadays. It's just because Apple only puts graphic cards in their most expensive laptops. And if you went for this new, you'd be looking at $2,500. And that's if you were okay with 120, or was it 256? Is it 120 or 256? If you wanted to go up to a 512, you needed $2,700. It was just, ugh. Alright, so that's it for laptops. Now, what about a mobile device? Like I said, if you're going for an iPhone, first off, I would hope that for that project that one of the companies involved, whether it be the company that's contracting this guy out or Apple themselves, would be providing the phone, because they'd want to keep that information locked nice and tight. If for whatever reason he has to pick, I would say just the cheapest POS they have. Get something with a screen you can tolerate. If you can tolerate the 4-inch screen, by all means, definitely go for it. And just be happy forever. Because, I mean, who cares? It's a phone. Now, as far as iPads go, if the application that they want you to run requires a lot of horsepower, then ask them exactly what you should be getting. They'll know more about the application than I would. If it doesn't matter, if it's just like whatever, it'll run on a toaster, get any iPad except the first generation iPad, the very first one. Do not get the very first generation iPad. That's worthless now. But even the iPad 2 is still supported, surprisingly. And I don't know how or why. And now, keep in mind, this is just looking at what Apple officially offers. There's still places like Mac in the Box, and of course, everyone's personal favorite, eBay. And you can always find tons of stuff in there. I meant Mac of all trades, not Mac in the Box. Ignore that. There we go, Mac of all trades. And that stuff where, let's just say we needed any MacBook Air. Real quick, let's grab a 13-inch just because. 13-inch, I see one at $750. I even see one that's even older. Late 2011. Yeah, there's one for $600. Late 2011, that's still more than enough. So yeah, you're all set there. Bam, done and done. And if it's just something that he's just going to be getting for just a little while, then just look at like things like specifically Mac of all trades has a clearance section where they sell scratch and dent. Just get something that's just like, oh hey, look, someone dropped the corner, but the SSD's still fine, and then just be happy forever. Like here's one fair condition MacBook Pro 650. Don't get something that old though. There's one here that's an iMac 17-inch. That's a white plastic one. Don't go for that. That's ancient. It's Core 2. That's even older than my desktop. But anyway, that's that. And that's it for the show today. I'm sorry everything was kind of Apple focused. It just kind of happened that way. Next week we'll get more into the PC side of things. Maybe we'll even touch on Android a little bit. We'll see what happens. In any case, rest well everyone and take care. Goodbye.